Greetings, dear viewers. My name is Luc Tessier, and this is A Form of Sound Words. I know, bizarre title. Let me explain. First, let's make sure everyone is familiar with the apologue of the frog and the boiling water. It is said that if one throws a frog into a pot of boiling water, the frog will be quick to jump out. However, if the frog is placed into a pot of warm water and the heat is gradually brought up to a boil, you'll have a cooked frog, and the poor amphibian will be none the wiser. It's a metaphor meant to describe the unwillingness of some to react to mortal or grave danger when this danger is slow to develop. Think of the judgment days the Bible promises. The Apostle Peter wrote of the coming judgment and mentioned the attitudes of the wicked men that lived just prior to Noah's flood, and likened it to wicked men today, thinking about the judgment that's to come. 2 Peter chapter 3, verses 3 to 6. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, since the fathers died, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. When I look around me, what accounts for regular life in North America, in Canada in particular, it's getting increasingly difficult for me to not see a well-cooked frog. I feel like an economist who is watching the U.S. debt clock and thinking, well, that's not going to end well. And curiously, this week, it's Taylor Swift that illustrated that our present culture, our present way of life, most certainly isn't going to end well. It's been a big year for Taylor Swift. Up until this week, I had never listened to a single one of her songs. I just knew she was a pop star icon, idolized by millions of teenage girls. But over the last year, Swift has been making the news not only for her new record, but for her relationship and recent engagement to football player Travis Kelce. Now, when I say she's been making the news, I'm not kidding. You can't go anywhere without hearing something about Taylor Swift. She is the undisputed person of the year. And with that comes scrutiny. And some Swifties aren't happy. You see, Taylor Swift is a liberal feminist icon for many young ladies. And now, some of them are feeling betrayed. Marrying a football star, wanting to have children with him, and lead a white picket fence family life. Why, that sounds mighty conservative. Cue the conservative voices everywhere, tripping over each other to swiftly welcome Swift into their conservative fold. See what I did there? Taylor Swift, conservative, trad wife, aspiring to motherhood. Yay for our side. There is, however, some problems with the narrative. I'm meant to accept that these words, lyrics to her hit song, are acceptable. That this is what a conservative trad woman should put out into the world. And let me remind you that Swift's main audience are young girls. And please understand, none of this is done ignorantly or innocently. Marketing teams have crafted this video frame by frame. It's constructed to dazzle and entice. One conservative voice, when speaking positively about this very music video, did pause to ask quizzically, will she still wear that stuff and dance like that in front of a camera when she's married? I don't know how I would feel if my wife did that. You think? So yes, it's Taylor Swift and the commentary around her that reminded me this week of the cooked frog that is our culture and our collective spiritual state. Every day we are inundated with provocative, hypersexualized words and imagery. Our children are targeted with this material. And we have grown so desensitized that anything short of complete nudity or explicit descriptions of sexual acts hardly elicits a reaction. We treat it as, at best, slightly annoying, and at worst, mundane or too commonplace to make a fuss. And as I thought on all these things this week, I couldn't help but remember the words of the Lord in Isaiah chapter 1, verses 4 to 5. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Why should ye be stricken any more? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart is faint. That's right. Ancient Israel, in the prophet Isaiah's day, had gotten so evil, so corrupt, so perverted, that not only couldn't they understand that their ways were evil, they couldn't even understand how God was judging them for their evil. It reminds me of an old quote by author Alan Bloom. It may very well be that a society's greatest madness seems normal to itself. Friends, we live in a fallen, wicked, and increasingly depraved world that is finding all sorts of novel ways to put itself before your eyes, in your ears, and in your very mind. The goal is to entice, and barring that, to normalize evil behavior. Be wary of this, and don't give time or space to the things of this world. God doesn't change. What he calls evil and judges doesn't change. It doesn't matter if we think it's not that bad. What matters is what God thinks, and he's revealed what he thinks in his word. The key, dear viewers, is what the Apostle Paul wrote to the Colossian Christians of his day. If ye then be risen with Christ, seek those things which are above, where Christ sitteth on the right hand of God. Set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth. Dear saints, won't you practice this with me this week? And will you join me in praying for our spiritually dead nations? This week, let's make a concerted effort to pray for our respective nations, that the Lord would be pleased to work a great work of revival through the power of his gospel and the faithful witness of his people. Oh, dear brothers and sisters, may we never find ourselves being part of the problem and bring reproach not only on ourselves, but on the God who saved us. May God help us meditate on these words this week. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lusts of the flesh, and the lusts of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever.